for people who are in a situation like I was or any other medical situation, they ask if I have this condition, can I do it? If I have that condition, can I do it? My answer is always, are you alive and are you human? Then a proper human diet is going to benefit you, right? And it's going to stop you from things like cancer, which used to be one in thousands of people got cancer. Today, it's one in three. Heart disease, one in thousands used to get heart disease. Today, it's one in three. And it used to be over 50% of the population smoked, and one in 12,000 people got cancer. Today, less than 10% of the population smokes, and yet one in three people get cancer.
That's a good point.
It's the food that you're eating.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's good to have you here on Ferrigno Freedom Channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno, and I'm going to be speaking today with a gentleman named Tom Mulkey. Tom is a very unique case, and I'm so glad to be able to have him on our program today because he has had some amazing progress on his carnivore journey. And I just wanted to share with you real quick an email that he sent me telling me a little bit about the highlights of it, and we're going to get into depth on that as we talk today. But he had mentioned he had left a comment on my channel and said that, and I mentioned to him that I would love to have a carnivore conversation, and he said he would love to do this also. He is trying to reach as many sick and nearly dead people as he can that were just like him before it's too late. So I can certainly appreciate that, and I'm very thankful that he has that attitude, and I know a lot of you guys have the same attitude, that you're trying to open people's eyes to this. But you know, it's very difficult sometimes when you're trying to share information about this way of eating, because most people have been programmed to just turn it off whenever they hear anything about red meat and salt and going on any type of diet of any kind, or where you decide to do something where you're excluding certain things, or in my case, excluding a lot of things. I mean, it's an elimination diet. He was saying 5 years ago he had been diabetic for nearly 16 years. He was 458 pounds, on 300 plus units of insulin a day, had his last bad A1C when he weighed 458 pounds. That was in the 14s. His highest A1C ever was in the 17s. He said, I spent 3 years seeing diabetic nutritionists and trying to follow the ADA guidelines to the letter. It only made me fatter and sicker. I had diabetic ulcers on my legs and feet, and all it would have taken was an infection, and I would have lost my legs. I had plantar fasciitis, I had diabetic neuropathy, and I was going blind. I had the beginnings of gout. I had really high blood pressure. It would get into the 280s on 5 blood pressure medicines. I had primary care doctor, a gastroenterologist, a neurologist, an endocrinologist, a cardiologist, an eye surgeon, a nephrologist, and a surgeon. I was even going to have my knee replaced, and soon I had a torn rotator cuff that needed a very painful surgery. Today I'm on no medications. I have no doctor. I'm down 192 pounds as of yesterday morning. I started keto, then my keto got very dirty and I had a stall for about a year, and now I have been mostly carnivore for about 5 months, and I'm losing weight and feeling great. I do eat some veggies every once in a while, but I'm 95% beef. I walk nearly 5 miles every morning now and go ride roller coasters on the weekends, where I walk many miles around the amusement park. And I'm loving life again. So he is calling in right this moment, so let's go ahead and bring him into the show here. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. I don't know if you can see me yet. I just had to work on getting my software squared away. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. It's finally time to start the weekend, start the real work.
Yeah, exactly. I have been killing it all day today. This is one of my days off from my normal job, so with us moving, it has been just a handful. I practically got in here 5 minutes before we got started, and I've already done a little bit of an intro by sharing some of your email. All right, so I'll tell you what. I've talked to them a little bit about what you've been doing, but I'd like to know basically where this all started. I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, but I would think it would be obvious that if you were in as difficult a shape as you were in, that this probably started fairly young, and kind of take us through the progression of what you dealt with, because I think it's going to relate to a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
starting
So
from where you came from and how before you got to keto even.
yeah. So about 20 years ago is when I was diagnosed as diabetic. I have always been overweight since I was a child in elementary school. I did Atkins for a brief time before I became diabetic, and I lost 40 or 50 pounds, but it came right back. Um, and so I was peeing all the time, and I felt like crap, and I was thirsty all the time. So I went to the doctor. They took my blood sugar. The meter just said high because it maxed out at 550. My
Wow.
A1C came back at 17. So they started me on some emergency insulin, but I didn't stay on the insulin. I just went to the metformin. Then I just started watching my carbohydrates. And I stayed to less than 100 grams a day. I got off of all of the real Mountain Dew because I was drinking like a case of that a day. Um, and I started to lose some weight, and then I went through a bad breakup with a girlfriend, and I just did a 90-day fast. I just didn't eat for 90 days.
Mm.
And I lost about 85 pounds in that time, and my diabetes just went away for like a year. It was fine, you know. Um, and then I met my wife, and we got married, and I started eating bread and pasta and all that good stuff again. And I became diabetic, and I got really diabetic, and I ended up on insulin. I tried like Pietas and different pills, everything through the years, and I just seemed to always get fatter and sicker. So about I don't know, probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, I decided I needed better insurance. I needed to go all these specialists that they wanted me to see. So I quit my job. I went to work for a hospital where seeing doctors was basically free as long as they were part of the hospital.
Mm.
I I got a endocrinologist, a cardiologist, a nephrologist because I have really high blood pressure, and she was a blood pressure specialist. Had a neurologist. I had all these ologists, and I went and saw diabetic nutritionists, and they kept putting me on more and more insulin, and I got fatter and sicker in that nearly 3 years than I've ever been in my life. And I was really trying to follow the ADA diet that the diabetic nutritionists were telling me. They were giving me the recipes. I spent the entire time really hungry and really like hungry, frustrated, and getting fatter and getting sicker. And so my final weight was 458 pounds, and my A1C came back at a 14. So I was on 300 plus units of insulin a day. Between the fast and slow acting insulins, they had me on like a concentrated U500 insulin, which is 5 times as concentrated, so you can still fit it all in one syringe. Um, I was on 5 blood pressure medicines. I had blood BPs in the 280s. Like with all my blood pressure medicines, it might occasionally come down below 250, but it was always really high. They told me, you're a walking stroke. They had me try cutting out the sodium. I did that until my leg muscles wouldn't work and I fell down. My heart started skipping beats, and they're like, you're low on sodium. Um,
Wow.
it just still didn't bring my blood pressure down. So about it's a little over 4.5 years, nearly 5 years ago, I saw a video from Dr. Barry, and then that he did on one of the other channels I subscribed to, and then I went and started watching him, and I went on keto. And at first, I was on a really pure keto. I mean, I did vegetables, but I did a lot of meat, and I didn't do any of the refined keto foods. I was like, meat and broccoli and maybe some mushrooms or something.
Right.
And I lost like 100 pounds in 4 months. A lot of that was water. Um, then the weight loss slowed down. And then I started seeing things in the store like, oh, well, they have keto bread. I could make me a grilled cheese sandwich. They have
Yeah.
keto cupcakes. I could have those. And The other thing is I never watched my seed oils when I went keto. I was like, yeah, seed oils, that's about carbohydrates. So I started eating more and more seed oils, and like a jar of mayonnaise used to last me until it expired in the fridge. And now I'm going through 2 or 3 jars in a couple weeks, because that's something low carb that I could have, but it's full of seed oil. And so I started to get, I had some diabetic retinopathy before, but I started to get macular edema and macular degeneration. And I was going blind. And then I saw a video that Dr. Berry did with an eye surgeon that said macular degeneration is something that's becoming increasingly common. It used to be like 1 in 12,000 people would get it when they got older. Now they're seeing people in their 30s get it, and it's 1 in 11 people that get it. And it's all about the seed oils. So I cut out the seed oils, and in a couple of weeks, my vision started to improve. I have some permanent damage. It's never going to go away, where they've burnt parts of my retina with lasers, and they were giving me eye shots every other month. But it's improving, and it's not getting any worse now. And I just kind of slowly from there just went carnivore. Beef makes me feel good, so I just eat beef. The weight loss started happening again. I started feeling great. Also, before I started keto, they were telling me I was going to need a knee replacement. At a surgeon that I was talking to about that, and I was going to need a really long recovery, painful surgery on my shoulder for a torn rotator cuff from where I rolled a riding mower down a hill. All that's gone away. Like, my knee's fine, my shoulder's fine. I had severe plantar fasciitis before. That's all gone. I go out a lot of times in the mornings and I walk 4 or 5 miles. And I could walk farther, but I have to get to work at some point. It's just like my energy now. It's just like I'm the Energizer Bunny. I can just keep going and going and going. It's amazing.
I know what you mean about walking the distance and being starting to look at the time, because I was getting up to where I was doing 7 miles at the very beginning after I had started with 1 mile and then built up like that. And then I started to look and said, man, this is taking almost 3 hours to get back home. So that was a little bit long to be spending doing that. But yeah, once you get it narrowed down to 3 miles, I think is great. But 3 or 4 or 5 miles, that's still pretty amazing to be able to take the time to get all that done. Going back to when you were younger, though, did you try, like when you were a kid, did you try to follow the guidelines that, whatever you were hearing on television? How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 49.
49. So we're roughly the same age. I'm 50 still. And we grew up in the same era. So you saw a lot of the stuff on TV that I saw. I remember Mr. T telling us all to drink our milk. And
So my mom was a cook for the school, and so when summer came, she would get to buy all those school lunch items really cheap.
mm-hmm.
And so I was pretty thin, wiry little kid until like the first grade, like between first and second grade, when she became a cook and she brought home all those little square fake rectangle pizzas. And I just decided to sit inside and watch cartoons and eat pizzas and all the breaded chicken nuggets and everything that she brought home. And I put on weight, and I never really lost the weight. And I really still liked meat and eggs and bacon. But when I would go make a big plate of that, my mom would be like, "You're going to give yourself a heart attack. You can't do that. That's bad for you," because she listened to all that stuff too. Yeah. And so, it was like, "Here, have a bowl of Lucky Charms."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I eventually, I tried to diet and eat less, but I would never have success for it. And I just eventually at some point in my teenage years said, I'm just going to be a fat dude and people are going to have to live with it, And I really quit trying all through my 20s. I used to go to the China buffet and scarf down 10 plates of food. And that's the thing, is back then I was always hungry. I mean, I didn't eat because I was a glutton. I ate like that because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I just didn't know the right things to be eating. And now that I eat beef, I can just eat once a day. Or like yesterday, I didn't eat at all.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those foods that we used to eat, that have MSG and all those seed oils and all kind of different things mixed in, everything from manufactured citric acid, which is designed to make everything taste better. But all of those things not only get us either hooked on the flavor and convince our brain that this is going to make us feel better, and then on top of that, they actually add inflammation to our body, so we have a need to feel better. So it creates a bit of a catch-22. And I've struggled with a lot of the same stuff you have. I think a lot of people can identify with what it's like to be trying to do the right thing and still feeling like you're just wasting your time. So if I'm going to be just wasting my time, I might as well enjoy what I'm eating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then when they said I was diabetic, that kind of changed a little bit. I was like, well, I have to do something. And I kind of knew it was about carbohydrates, but the difference was is I thought carbohydrates was something you limit, but you had to have them to live, you know.
Right.
So you always had to have some of them. And they were always pushing the whole grains, eat a bowl of oatmeal with the half a banana. And, you know, there's more sugar in a bowl of oatmeal with a half a banana than there is in a Butterfinger candy bar, you know. So that's really bad for you. And they're telling you to eat 6 times a day. And just because they don't want your blood sugar to get low, right? So they're trying to keep it even. But the truth is you can't ever get into where you're burning any fat when you're like that. And
yeah. It almost seems like they don't have a clue what to tell people to do when it comes to diabetes, because I've seen that when I was running a retirement home too, that it would encourage them to eat things that would keep them in that metabolic disordered state. And I hate to think that I hate to say that they're doing it on purpose, but at some point you start to say, well, why if this is so ineffective do they keep doing this? But I try not to throw doctors under the bus, because I know there's a few of them out there that actually want to do good for people, and they have the attitude of do no harm, but they seem to be few and far between. So when you mentioned that at the very beginning, your first experience with really losing weight came from a long fast after you had broken up with somebody?
So the first time I ever lost weight was when I did Atkins, a significant amount. I lost like 40 pounds. But then, of course, I thought, well, you have to reintroduce the carbohydrates at some point. So it's, you know, and then it just fell apart. And then when I did a long fast, I was just really depressed over the breakup I had with my girlfriend at the time. And I thought, you know what? I am sick of being fat. I am going to get thin and I'm going to find myself a woman. And I just decided that I wasn't eating for 90 days. And after the first 3 or 4 days, it really wasn't that hard. I mean, I wasn't like starving hungry. But I mean, I still drank diet soda, but other than that, I just didn't eat anything.
For how long was that? Did you say 90 days?
90 days, yeah.
Wow.
And
I didn't even know you could go that long.
It wasn't that hard. Now, if I try to do like a 3 or 4 day fast now, I'm getting really hungry and cranky, but I wasn't at that point. I was a lot younger then. I don't know.
I got to say, looking for a mate and feeling depressed over things can make us do things that are pretty amazing. I can definitely relate to that too. And I know a lot of other people can as well. So first was Atkins, and then was the long fast. What brought you to keto initially?
I just saw a video from Dr. Berry, and some people had left comments on my channel like, you need to try the keto diet. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I have all these doctors, and they're telling me what I need to eat, you know. And so I kind of ignored that. And then I saw that Dr. Berry interview on another channel, and I was like, maybe there is something to this. And so I started watching Dr. Berry's videos. I ordered his book, and I said, I'm going to try this. And so I tried just having a piece of Polish sausage for breakfast. And by noon, my blood sugar got low because I still took my insulin. And within just a few days, I had to quit taking my insulin. It was still a little high. It was still in the 170s to 200s, you know, but it wasn't in the 400s where it was before. So I just decided to drop that and stick with keto. And within a couple months, my blood sugars came down and pretty much returned to normal.
How long ago was that you began keto?
That was like 5 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago.
And you mentioned you have a channel too. You said somebody had said something on your channel.
Yeah, I run a Frugal Preppers Garage and Garden,
Oh, okay.
but there's not much garden stuff anymore because I don't really eat the vegetables. So,
Well, that's interesting. I didn't even realize you had a YouTube channel. I saw you had some kind of car thing going on with your the car whisperer.
yeah, yeah,
But
that's
that's
my. So I'm a network engineer by day, and then I fix and diagnose cars that other people can't fix or diagnose in the evenings and weekends. So
oh my goodness. I need you to come help me with my truck. It's it's possessed. Well, that's awesome. So you still do you have a YouTube channel of your own that you're still doing now? The
yeah,
frugal
yeah, I
prepper?
do, and I've been doing more carnivore videos on it. I did an interview with Leah Wells, so I'm trying to. The carnivore videos seem to do really well on my channel, so I'm sticking with those. The more people I can reach, just I had a guy that said, "Hey, I was just watching your video on how to replace the fuel nozzle on my van, and I saw you had carnivore stuff, and I told my daughter about it, and she's doing it, and we're doing it, and you've probably saved our lives."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I get a lot of that myself, and that's what keeps me going. When I first made the first video I made doing this, I was running basically a gaming channel at the time, something I had started with my stepson because I found out he was already posting stuff on YouTube, and I hadn't been posting. I'd made a couple of posts on YouTube where I was just showing how to do something to see if it would ever go viral or whatever. I didn't understand how all this works. That you got to put a lot of work into a YouTube channel, but
Yeah.
when he said he wanted to share his things on YouTube rather than just telling him no, you're too young, you shouldn't be involved in this, I thought, well, if you're interested in it, let's learn about it together because I was into video games on my phone and stuff, and I thought maybe we could do this together. And it didn't do anything like it's doing now. I had a few hundred subscribers, but once I made the video about going lion diet for 125 days, it was like night and day difference. Everything just exploded. So I can understand why, one, you would definitely want to talk about this, but two, when you've had that experience where it's changed your life so much, of course you want to help somebody else have that experience because I know you probably feel a little like I do when you're out in public and you're looking around and you're seeing folks that are walking around in the same condition you were in. You want to be able to just walk up to them and say, hey, do you want to
Yeah.
unzip that and step out and be the person you know you are on the inside? But
Yeah.
it's not something you can really do, especially whether it's in public or somebody that you know personally. So I'm glad to hear that you're sharing the message on your channel as well, and that we can share it here, and maybe some of my audience can check yours out, and vice versa. So that'll work out good. I
Yeah.
had no idea that you even had that.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
actually had a YouTube channel going since 2012. So yeah,
wow, you're ahead of the game then.
yeah, yeah.
So you said once you met your wife, and I can understand this as well, real easy to get fat and happy. I was actually in what I thought was fairly decent shape when I met her. Although she said I had a muffin top, I didn't even admit it. I was like, you said something in your email about how you don't have a lot of pictures because you're always trying to hide it from yourself. I can definitely relate to that too,
Yeah.
because a lot of times I want to be able to show some older pictures of me, and I've really got to search for something that shows me in a bad light because usually I would crop it or edit it to where I wouldn't look as bad as I thought it looked. So I can certainly understand that. Then the idea of being with that person that you love, everything gets real happy and you both start eating together and everything like that. So did she join you on any of this with the keto or the
Yeah.
carnivore?
So my wife's always been very thin, not keto at all. She used to
Yeah.
just sit down and eat bowls of pasta and never put on a pound. But she hurt herself working in a factory. She hurt her back pretty
Oh.
severely, um, and went through physical therapy and all that kind of stuff. And she has to be on painkillers, which are narcotics. So she has to go through a lot of MRIs every so often with the doctor to verify that her back's still bad, to get the pills and all that kind of stuff. And she kind of went more keto, and now she's really going more carnivore. Although she still has things like cottage cheese and yogurt occasionally, but she
Hmm.
eats a lot more meat. and her back has just gotten a ton better. There's days when she doesn't have to take any pain medication now. So yeah, it's and she's actually, she's already thin, so now she's getting a little six pack down there, So you can really tell the difference that it's made, and it's helping her feel better too.
I see your cat in the background there. It's about to do
Yeah,
something interesting.
that's Captain Janeway. That's her name.
Hey, Captain
Almost Star
Janeway.
Trek.
We have a black cat like that too. So when you started losing the extra weight, you said you do go to an office for your computer job,
Yeah, so I work at a desk most of the time, but I also have to go carry heavy computers out across the shop floor. So I work for a steel processing center and warehouse, so it's really big, and I have to get out there and walk and carry heavy stuff. And we have 4 locations that I go to, so I'm pretty active there. But it's mostly I'm sitting at my desk. So when I get home, I'm ready to like go work on some cars or do some yard work or do something to get some exercise. I used to say like, oh, thank God I have a desk job, so I don't have to do all that crazy work. And now I'm like, I'm looking for a different job, kind of, because I
yeah.
want a job where I do some work. So
I can, man, it's amazing. You say it exactly the way I used to say is I'm thankful that I can work in the air conditioning and not have to be out there sweating in the sun. But, that was because I didn't want to do that extra work either. I didn't want to be out in the sun. And once you start to lose the weight and get the energy, it's like, why wouldn't I want to be outside? Why would I want to be
yeah,
trapped inside under these lights now? So
one of
how,
the things I've
go ahead.
noticed is like when it's hot outside, it doesn't seem as hot as it used to me. It used to
Right.
be like, oh, it's hot out here, I'm going to die. Now I'm like, oh, really? It's 92 out? It doesn't feel like 92. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great feeling. What was it like? I mean, I'm sure since you had to work around people and they started to notice you dropping off weight like crazy and they would ask you questions about what you're doing, did you get a lot of pushback on eating keto or carnivore? Or
oh, yeah. So, I mean, people, um, I've gotten to where I just don't talk about it like at work. I don't just come out and be like, hey, I'm on carnivore. I lost this many pounds
right?
because people don't really want to hear that. So it's really weird. But as you get happier and your mental clarity picks up, you start to pick up on people who are more depressed and more passive aggressive. And
Yeah.
you just kind of pick up on how unhappy people are about themselves. So I wait for somebody to say something to me and then I'll tell them about it. And they're usually like, oh, that seems interesting. And I tell them, so you just eat meat? Like, yeah, I just ate meat and eggs and bacon. And so you're just eating meat. Yeah. So trying to explain that to them and get them past. I think we're dealing with two things. We're dealing with people have to be in enough pain to want to change. Like pain
Yeah.
is the precursor to change. But then when they want to make a change, they have to actually have the knowledge of what the correct change is to make because their doctor's telling them it's to eat bowls of oatmeal, and that
Absolutely.
won't work. So, you have both of those things. And some people are just, they're just going to keep doing what they do. And I don't like shame them or anything. You can go ahead and keep drinking that 43-gram can of root beer 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I notice how much more energy I have than other people, how much more I tend to like care about my job too. Like I care about whether this gets fixed and that gets done and this is done right. Where I used to just kind of go through the motions, like, whatever, just as long as I don't get fired and get my paycheck on Fridays. Like going to lunch with people is kind of hard because a lot of times I don't eat lunch. So I'll just go and get a drink and sit there and talk to them. And I've had people even say like, "Oh, if you can't afford it, we can pay for your lunch." And I'm like, "No, I'm not hungry." Like people who are on sugar and carbohydrates, I really think there's two kinds of hunger. There's the kind of hunger you have when you're on sugar and carbs, and there's the kind you have when you're on a low carb diet,
Yeah.
or a carnivore diet. And so people who have only ever experienced that carbohydrate style of eating, they get hungry every 2 or 3 hours and they have to eat because their blood
Yeah.
sugar's getting low, right? And they don't understand the other kind of hunger, which is I'm hungry, but I could wait till I get home in 3 hours and eat then. Like I would eat if there was food here, but I'm not like I have to eat right now. I just
Right.
noticed like I'm a little hungry. And not getting hungry that often. And there's been a lot of people that think, well, you should go to the doctor if you're not getting hungry. There's something wrong. It's like, no, it feels completely natural. It's normal. I know it feels normal. But yeah, so I don't think anybody at work has really switched over to it because of me, but I was at another branch up north and somebody was asking me, they were like, you look like you're just wasting away since the last time we saw you.
Yeah.
And so I told them what I was doing, and they were like, really? And they start asking me some questions, and then I turn around, and there's like 15 other guys from the shop standing there like, like listening to me too.
Yeah.
And so I think, sometimes people are just willing to listen. And
You
the
know
more
that
weight you lose, the more that comes into effect too.
right, and in that situation, that reminds me of the first time I did Atkins. I was working at Circuit City at the time, and our district manager would come around, and he was a heavy set guy, and then we'd see him about once every 6 weeks. And then the next time we saw him, he was smaller, and the next time we saw him, he was smaller, and the next time we saw him, he was normal size. And I finally said, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And I wasn't the only one, so I can appreciate that you have to have somebody that sees you in periodic form sometimes to really get a wake up, or somebody that hasn't seen you in a long time. But even then, a lot of times they seem to react like, "Oh, well, I couldn't do that." Well, it's not a problem for you yet, then, right?
And I get a lot of, well, I can't eat that much meat because I'm in stage 2 kidney failure, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, actually, you can. The meat has nothing to do with your kidney failure. In fact, a lot of times people's kidney function improves when they eat lots of meat and go carnivore. And I'll tell them, go search the YouTube for like people like Dr. Berry, and you'll find that out. So there's a lot of people that are like, I have this condition, I can't do that. Well, I had a heart attack 2 years ago, so I have to eat low fat now. And it's like, no, the low fat's what's going to cause you to have another heart attack. My kidney tests have always come back perfect. Like they've done the blood work tests and the pee in the cup tests, and they've always come back fine.
Okay.
But I was seeing the nephrologist because she's also a blood pressure specialist, because most people with blood pressure that high develop kidney problems. So she was working with me on my blood pressure, and she would put me on all kinds of weird medications. And there are blood pressure medications that just have side effects that you don't want to know about. Yeah, it's just
Well,
crazy. And none of them worked. They gave me this one that made my nipples really sensitive. Like, um, they gave me one that made my heart skip beats. And they're saying, "Oh, that's normal for this medication." I mean, it was just, and a lot of them would just make you like tired, no energy, didn't want to do anything. And this is after I was already on keto and lost enough weight. So the other thing that I've started doing since I lost weight is riding roller coasters. And like now, I'll go, like we're going tomorrow, either tomorrow and or Monday. And riding some coasters again. And I'll just spend all day at the amusement park, open to close. Like last time my wife had her app open on her phone, we walked like 13.2 miles for that entire day.
wow.
Just going to every coaster, standing in long lines, riding coasters, having fun. And like a lot of times I don't even need to sit down or take a break. I don't need to eat. We'll have to stop so my son can eat something, and I'll sit down for a few minutes. But yeah, I love coasters. The bigger and faster, the more times they go upside down, the funner they are. So
Wow. I wish I could do them, because when they start looping and spinning or whatever, lose my equilibrium. But I do like a good one that has nice high rides and stuff. And I
yeah,
remember going to parks and seeing that the weight limit was 250 pounds when I was pushing almost 300 pounds. So I can imagine what kept you off was the weight, or was it?
yeah, I just couldn't fit in them, right? And so the main park we go to is Kings Island here in Ohio, and they don't have any weight limits. But if you can't get the second click on the bar, you're not riding. And after I lost my first 50 or 60 pounds, there was two of them I could fit in. And then I've just gotten to where the other day I was able to get on the Racer, which is an old wooden coaster from 1976. And, it's made for people who were the size they were in 1976, and
Yeah.
um, even the last couple years when I've gotten into it, they've always had to come over and push that bar down so it feels like you're going to need a new liver and a spleen to get that second click. And I was able to sit in it, and I got the second click all by myself pretty comfortably. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you were at 458. Where are you at now?
272 the other day. I was at 270 before that, and now I weighed again. It was 272, but it goes up and down a little bit in there.
I always
So
tell people you got to watch out for that scale. It'll mislead you and get you nervous and wreck your momentum. Try not to check it too often because it's a liar
yeah,
sometimes.
and that's the thing is I normally weigh once every couple weeks. I weighed, and then I weighed again 2 days later to see if I lost any more. I'm like, oh, I'll put it on two. So
Well, you look great, especially compared to the previous pictures that you showed me. Are you comfortable where you're at now, or do you have a goal to get down even further?
I like to get down to around 190, which is kind of it's in the middle of my not being obese. It's the middle of my healthy weight. If I get there, that's great. I'm not really actively trying to lose the weight right now. I know that I have been working out, lifting some weights here now and then, and I do a lot of work. So my muscles are getting stronger. Like this, all up here is just solid muscle. There's no
Yes,
fat here at all.
and that has weight too.
My back's mostly solid muscle. I just have a little bit in this belly, my legs and thighs. I mean, I'm muscle and bone around my waist now, so that's not going to get any smaller than the size 42 pants I'm in now. I'm a big guy, but so, but I'm not going to stop eating this way, even if I never lost another pound, because I feel great. I'm healthy. My medical problems are gone. I'm
Yeah,
not going
yeah,
blind, and I'm just going to keep eating this way. And it's really weird. You think you would get tired of having beef or tired of just eating meat, but I don't. I get hungry and I'm like, man, I want some meat. The other day, though, my son, who's not carnivore, but he's actually against eating meat because of the animal thing. But I've gotten him to start. So I've gotten him to eat a few hamburger patties here lately. But he was making him some Lucky Charms. He spilled some on the table, and I picked up a small handful and I ate them. I woke up the next day and I'm like, man, my shoulder hurts and my arm kind of hurts. Oh, my hip hurts. And it took
yeah,
a couple of days for that to go away. And I'm like, and they didn't taste that good. They tasted like this corn and chemicals. I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not doing that ever again.
You may want to let your son take a look at the farming practices that are needed to raise a lot of plant crops, because they have to kill a lot of creatures to keep their
Yeah,
crops safe. And they don't. It's not like those creatures that they kill get used for anything. They just get eliminated. So when it comes down to
yeah,
it, you might actually be saving more lives by having people raise cattle. Imagine if cattle were running around wild only. All
yeah.
the predators would be eating them anyway. So at least
Well,
on a
with him,
farm,
it's
they're
not
safe for a
so
while.
much that he's against like killing animals for food. He just finds it gross that you're eating an animal. He
Ah,
just
yeah,
finds that nasty. But as he's getting older now, that
yeah,
started to change. He'll eat some chicken nuggets, breaded chicken nuggets, but it's some protein. He'll eat some hamburger patties. I got him to eat some bacon the other day. So his tastes are starting to change. And every time he eats it, he's like, this isn't actually too bad.
So let me ask you another question. Have you had to deal with any loose skin issues or anything like that since you've been doing carnivore and keto?
Well, I've lost it over like 4.5 years. So it seems like what will happen, especially now that I'm carnivore, is I'll lose weight and I'll get a little bit of loose skin, and then it'll start to tighten up a little bit, and then I'll lose some more weight and get a little more loose skin. So I have a little loose skin, but it's not like big flappy,
Yeah.
pieces of skin.
Well,
It
that's
kind of
good to hear.
goes away on its own. And I've noticed like days when I'm not hungry, and I eat very little or nothing for a whole day or a couple days, that my skin will tighten up.
Well,
Yeah.
the reason I ask is I know a lot of people worry about that. If they were, in that 400 plus range, they worry, am I going to lose all this weight and then have a big flap to carry around? And I guess it kind of depends on how fast you go. And you took your time with it by starting with keto. And then now that you've gotten closer to the weight you want, you're liking carnivore. So how long have you been doing carnivore? You said 5 months, I think.
Yeah, like 5. It's going on 6 now. Yeah.
How did
So
things change
I
going from
started right at
keto
the
to
end of January.
carnivore?
Well, so my keto kind of hit a stall there, because I was eating keto bread and all the bad
Oh, okay.
keto stuff. Um, and like I got on carnivore and I just started feeling great. Like one of the first things I noticed was like I was cutting up some chuck roast to get ready to. I like to slice my chuck roast thin and then fry it out on the grill or in bacon grease in a pan. And I'm like, I'm really hungry. And so I cut off a couple of raw pieces and ate it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, And I would have never dreamed of eating raw meat before. So like my taste started to change. I started to feel really good,
Yeah.
um, and it just like every day I just felt better. I'm like, oh, this works. This doesn't hurt. I feel great. And the other thing I've noticed is like where I had diabetic ulcers on my legs and feet before, they had healed up on keto, but now that I'm on carnivore, the scars are actually starting to lighten up and go away. So,
Wow.
I mean, it's slow going, but I used to have a scar like this big, and now it's like that big.
That's
Um,
amazing.
all the little spots and stuff I had on my feet, like my feet got real speckly and stuff when I was diabetic. That's all clearing up and going away. I went back to the podiatrist because I have high arches, so I get special shoe inserts. They did an X-ray and a neuropathy test, and then they're sitting there like, "Well, is there more than one, Tom? Like, what?" I'm like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Well, when you were in here back in 2018, your neuropathy and your arthritis were a lot worse. Now you just have a little arthritis in your little toe. So we're trying to figure out if there's a different Tom." I'm like, "No, that was me. I just been eating meat and keto, and I'm better now." They're like, "But neuropathy can't reverse itself." I'm like, "Well, apparently it does." So like my neuropathy is almost all the way gone. I have maybe 10% of it left in my right foot, and like a little bit of arthritis in my right little toe, which I don't even feel anymore.
Was
And
this
my
your
plantar
primary care?
fasciitis is gone.
Was this your
That was my
primary care
podiatrist,
doctor?
my foot
Your
doctor.
podiatrist. So he
My
was saying
primary care
neuropathy doesn't
doctor,
go away.
yeah. Well, that's what the podiatrist said. That neuropathy can't go away. I'm like, I've heard from Dr. Barry that it can. It just takes a really long time for those nerves to re-heal, but they can get better, and it has. Like I can feel when they're just touching me with those little tiny things. I can be like, "Yep, I
Hmm.
feel that. Yep, I feel that." Where before I didn't feel anything, except when you have neuropathy, once in a while it just feels like it's on fire for a few hours, and it burns and it hurts,
I've known
and
people who
that's
have had
normal.
it, but I couldn't quite relate to it because I'd never had it. But I'm sure there's people watching who have it, would like to have an end to it. And that being the case, what would you tell somebody who is in your situation, or maybe even one or two of the situations you found yourself in before you started this way of eating? What would you tell them to help them get started moving in the right direction?
For me, it was just eating keto, and like I said, I started as keto. I still thought vegetables were really important. So I ate all the low carb veggies, the broccoli. I ate some Brussels sprouts, some cauliflower. I ate green beans, just the French cut without the actual bean parts in them, just the shell. And I would eat lots of meat and eggs and bacon. The thing was, is like when I would be like, feel like, oh, I'm hungry. I need a snack. I want something. I would just eat more keto food till I was full, till I couldn't eat another bite.
Now, back when
And
you
that
started,
really,
was that keto treats and snacks and stuff that they sell in the store that says keto friendly and all that, or were you
yeah, that
specifically
was after a couple of years of being on keto. Then I was like, oh, I'm going to get this keto bread. It says it's only 1 net gram of carbohydrates. And I'm going to get
right?
this keto cupcake and this keto cookie. And
And those
um,
just led you down the wrong path.
yeah, they still were really inflammatory and they made me feel kind of crappy, and I started putting on a little bit of weight again. My blood glucose was getting a little bit higher again, so I was like, yeah, I'm not, can't do that. You have to stay with a really pure type of keto, like only whole foods that are low in carbohydrates. Avoid the seed oils, which I did not do at first, but I found out how important that is. And just keep, eat as much as you need to eat to get past those cravings, and just don't eat any of the bad stuff.
So,
Um,
what would you tell them to go shopping for if somebody say, hey, I'm going to start doing what you did? What should I go to the store and buy? What should I stock up on, and how do I cook it?
well, lots of meat, and beef is better. Beef will make you feel better than any other meat will. But if you can't afford the beef, you can get the pork chops on sale. You can, but like lean things like chicken breast, you're gonna have to eat that with some butter or something to get some fat in with it, because you want to have a lot of saturated fat. But when I first started keto, I did all the like green vegetables that were low carb. I also did some nuts, some walnuts, and some different types of nuts. Just occasionally had those as like an extra snack. I did Carb Master yogurt, which has artificial sweetener in it, but I would take and get like some raspberries or blackberries, and I would mix those in, a few of those in with the Carb Master yogurt. And I did really well. Like I lost 100 pounds in like 4 or 5 months.
Hmm.
Um, but then it kind of slowed down after that. And I think I was peeing constantly. I think a bunch of that was water.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but, and then as I have now gone carnivore, I have tried to get a little bag of walnuts and eat them. And I wake up and something hurts. And I'm like, oh, walnuts are bad for me. Right?
Hmm.
It's amazing how when you start to eliminate all of the foods and go with just meat, how much you realize, how you feel completely good. Nothing hurts ever. And then you eat something bad and something hurts. And you're like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that.
When you
Now,
had that
I am not,
experience with walnuts, was it raw or were they roasted or something like
they
that?
were roasted and salted. Yeah, just a little bag of
They
walnuts.
usually have seed oils when they roast them.
Okay, that could be. No, I have eaten some pistachios since then, because I was at a gas station, and that's like the only thing they had there that was even close to what I could eat. And I ate a bag of those, and it didn't seem to affect me. And I am not 100% complete carnivore now. Once every 2 or 3 weeks, I will have a cup of spaghetti squash. I will make some Alfredo with some heavy whipping cream and Parmesan cheese and some meatballs. Um, I will still have pickles. I will occasionally have a few olives. I will have some jalapenos just every once in a while, because those do cause me to get inflamed, but I love them so much. Um, so yeah, I mean, but those are, I go weeks just eating meat, and then I'll
Yeah.
have something else.
I can
You
relate to
what?
wanting those things too. And I think there's a lot of people out there who want to be able to know, can I still have some of the things I love? And the key is that even though you may not be, you mentioned something about not being down as low as I was or something like that. And I don't think everybody needs to necessarily have the same goal. But the key is you feel better and your health
Yeah.
is better. And you said you don't have to take pills anymore and you don't have to go see a doctor regularly anymore,
Yeah.
right?
So my primary care doctor actually dropped me as a patient for being non-compliant, because when he found out I was on carnivore, he wanted to put me on statins as a preventative measure, even though my cholesterol, my triglycerides, he said those are the lowest I've ever seen. My HDL was really high and really good, and my LDL was well within the normal range. He's like, but if
Wow.
you're only eating meat and not much fat, we got to put you on a statin. I'm like, I'm not taking statins. I have a sister who is dying right now from statin induced myositis,
Hmm.
and she'll be dead in a few years. And she's on chemotherapy to try to fight it. So like, I'm not taking that. And then I got a letter in the mail that he was dropping me for being a non-compliant patient. So I got to find another doctor. But I'm not in any hurry. If I get sick or I need something, I'll just go to the urgent care, and I'm not in any hurry to have a primary care doctor. I feel great. I don't need a doctor, you know.
Yeah, well, it's a strange thing when you start to feel like, well, when I go see them, they don't have any answers. They want to tell me to keep doing stuff that wasn't working before. All the
Mhm.
things I was doing that were causing me to feel bad the way I was before. So why do I want to go see them for anything? And then you feel like, well, I have to have something. I have to have some kind of contact with a doctor, right? Because what happens if I
Yeah.
do get an infection or get sick, or maybe I get in a car accident or something like that, or maybe I need to have an organ transplant? Who knows? You don't even think about all these things when you get started, but you start to realize we watch Star Trek and all those things, and we watch these ER and all these TV shows that make it look like we're practically in the Star Trek age, and we feel like, well, we're supposed to be able to go see the doctor and get answers. But
Yeah.
sounds like your experience is a lot like mine, is that when you go to these doctors, they don't really have any answers. They've got things for you to do, but they don't actually solve anything. So it does
Yeah.
put you in a bit
They
of a
tell you things
quandary.
like eat a little bit less and move a little bit more. That doesn't work. Like I exercise now, I walk now, I enjoy it. But for the vast majority of my exercise or my weight loss, I haven't done any extra exercise. I just ate the right foods and I lost the weight. I don't exercise because I want to lose weight. I exercise now because I've lost weight and I feel good and I want to get some exercise.
The key focus for you is not even weight loss. It's being healthy, and it's being able to
Yeah,
enjoy life with your wife, and to do what you need to do to provide for her and your family, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the only medication or supplement I take now is ox bile because I don't have a gallbladder. But other than that, no doctors, no nothing. I feel great. I'm thinking like for the first time in my life, I'm probably actually gonna get to live to my retirement and use my 401k for something, you know. Um, because if I hadn't found Dr. Berry and went on keto and went down this path, I have no doubt that one of my leg ulcers would have got infected. I would have had one or two legs amputated by now. I would be blind by now. I'd probably be in kidney failure by now. I might be dead by now. And that just changed the whole path of it.
Well, that's wonderful, and that's exactly what we wanted to be able to share, is to just let people know what you've been through, and because they're just hear me telling my story a lot of times, I feel like it's just not enough even to show what I've gone through. No matter how good my progress is, it's still just one person. So I appreciate you taking the time and come on and share your story with us, because it's encouraging. And I sometimes forget, because when I get up and I feel fine every day and I go take on whatever tasks I got, I don't remember as well what it was like when I was struggling with all those things. And I know a lot of people watching this video right now are struggling with those things. And having you come and share your story with us on my channel here is just going to be more encouragement for them. And I thank you for being able to take the time to do that. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
I would just like to say, for people who start the keto diet, you're going to fall off the wagon sometimes. You know, you're going to be like, "Oh, I can have two of those potato chips." You're going to look down, the whole bag's going to be gone. Keto is very forgiving that way. You
Yeah.
just get back on it the next day, and you get right back in line with it. So don't stress out about that if it happens. I mean, try not to let it happen, but don't stress out about it.
You're
But
absolutely right.
I also want to say, like, for people who are in a situation like I was or any other medical situation, they ask if I have this condition, can I do it? If I have that condition, can I do it? My answer is always, are you alive and are you human? Then a proper human diet is going to benefit you, right? And it's going to stop you from things like cancer, which used to be one in thousands of people got cancer. Today, it's one in three. Heart disease, one in thousands used to get heart disease. Today, it's one in three. And it used to be over 50% of the population smoked, and one in 12,000 people got cancer. Today, less than 10% of the population smokes, and yet one in three people get cancer.
That's a good
It's
point.
the food that you're eating. Alzheimer's, dementia. They're finding out that that's related to sugar and diabetes now.
Yep.
Um, Obesity and type 2 diabetes and all of the complications that come from that. you don't have to suffer from that. You just have to eat the right food and you can be healthy. And it's really rare to get those complications. So
Great points all, man. That's a great wrap up. Heck, that might even be the intro. That's very good. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you taking the time and come and sit with me and talk about your experience, because I hope this is going to help a lot of other people. And I'm just glad you were able to do that. I'm glad you've been so successful with it. So we're going to keep spreading the word. And if you guys are interested in knowing anything else, or if you have any questions, Tom checks out the channel, so you can definitely leave some comments down in the comments section. And if he gets a chance to see them, he may not see them as quickly as I do because it's not going to notify him. But if you come back and check this every once in a while, Tom, maybe some folks will have some questions for you. And maybe we can do something on your channel sometime. How's that sound?
yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to do an interview with you on my channel. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. If you'll stick around, I'll have a little something from one of my affiliates here, and I appreciate you sitting with us and watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, Tom.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
I wanted to try out this new skincare product that I bought on Amazon called Vintage Tradition. The whole food of skincare, a little goes a long way. Tallow from 100% grass-fed cows, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, therapeutic grade essential oils, cedar wood, ylang-ylang, lavender, and basil. As opposed to using chemical-based cream like this that I usually use after I shave, at least all the ingredients in here are natural. This stuff really does seem to go a long way. I like it. It's definitely soothing to my skin. It doesn't have the burning sensation that it had when I got out of the shower. Vintage Tradition. Might want to give it a try. Vintage Tradition even makes products for the ladies. My wife loves the Pretty Girly Tallow Balm,
because it feels really good. And it smells really good.
I'll put a link in the description for this. Try it out and see what you think. I'll see you guys next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?